It's that time of year again. ACC football kickoff. The Nole Insiders, Lane Hurt and Tim Lenefelt, here live from Charlotte. Tim, not necessarily a super newsy event here for the Noles, but still a lot of the same talking points, the expected talking points you thought you would hear here at kickoff.
Yeah, look, Florida State was still a really big draw, popular draw among the media. Willie Taggart and Tamorian Terry and Marvin Wilson were the first of any school. Today's the Atlantic's day here. The Coast will go tomorrow, and Florida State was first on the docket in the press conference in the media breakout rooms. And there was a lot to talk about. A lot of questions, particularly from non-local media, for the guys about last season and what happened there and why they expect things to be different. And I thought all the answers that they gave, and it was clear that they were on the same page and their thoughts about it. I thought the answers they gave were really, really good. Willie Taggart's line in the press conference that jumped out to me was, we don't talk about last year unless we're asked about it. Well, as fate would have it, they were asked about it, and plenty. But the approach that they have toward it is that we don't think about it, we don't talk about it. Somebody asks do you use it as motivation? No, we're looking 100% forward, looking focused on the future, and then they kind of reeled off a lot of the reasons why they feel good about the future and why they're optimistic moving forward. And there are a lot. Kendall Briles, obviously the new offensive coordinator, was part of that discussion. Randy Clements, Ron Dugans, the new offensive staff, those guys feel really, really good about. And you talk about being in, a system for a second year or a way of doing things for a second year. Obviously, as a new offensive coordinator, but the overall philosophy of what Florida State's doing on offense in terms of going fast and hurrying up and not huddling, that part's the same. So you still, get that familiarity that comes with being in year two. And then, what I think is really fascinating, and Marvin Wilson touched on this a little bit, is how improvements that will be made on offense will make their way to the defense. You know what I mean? An offense, obviously, that's holding the ball a little bit more, even if you're scoring faster, that's putting up more points, that's holding time of possession a little bit better, that's just even playing better and boosting the confidence and the morale on the other side of the ball. That's going to be felt on that side as well. So, a lot of talk about the future, the not-so-distant future. Obviously, fall camp starts pretty soon, but a pretty optimistic and upbeat vibe, I thought, from the Florida State contingent.
Yeah, I think to your initial point, Tim, one of the things I heard in the breakout rooms is a lot of the producers were asking the guys and Coach Taggart what statement they're hoping to make in that opener against Boise State. And they didn't necessarily have an answer to that question of this is what they specifically want to show the world. I think it was more of, we'll see, which means to me that they're trying to focus on making themselves better, making the team better, and that seemed to be the prevailing message today.
Yeah, I thought so too, and Marvin was maybe a little more succinct than that even, and somebody asked, it was specifically framed a question about Clemson, which a lot of Clemson talk here these days, which you understand, they've earned that, but Florida State, I think, is always going to be part of that discussion, just the same way as it was a handful of years ago when Florida State was on top of the mountain. Everybody was, surrounding Dabo, asking what they had to do to get to that top of that mountain. And, Marvin's answer today is probably what I suspect was similar to Dabo's back then, was he's got to win. I mean, that's kind of it. And if you're a fan sitting at home watching, you're like, yeah, no kidding. You know what I mean? And this stuff, it's all fun to talk about and break down and analyze. And there's, a lot of room for that to be done. But, like Marvin said, you got to win. If you win games, all that stuff kind of falls into place. And so, I think that those guys are looking forward more than anything to the opportunity to go out and compete and show what they believe internally and prove to certainly Florida State's fan base, but also the gathered media, the nation, and maybe to a degree themselves that that they still are a good football team with good football players and are relevant on the conference stage and nationally as well.
The other fun part about this event is seeing how guys handle being on this stage. For Marvin Wilson, he's been there, done that through the recruiting cycle. He's kind of used to this. Tamorian Terry, this is all new to him. It was kind of fun to see guys interact. Marvin was really hamming it up and taking photos and that kind of stuff. Tamorian seemed to be enjoying it as well. To me, it's interesting to see the contrast of the two guys and how they handle the moment.
Well, and their stories are so different too, right? I mean, Marvin's a five-star recruit from Houston. He made his commitment to Florida State on national television, of course, with the honey fried chicken scene there, if you will. It sort of, made that a national household conversation. And then Tamori Terry from Ashburn, Georgia, a little bit north of Tallahassee, was a diamond in the rough type of prospect. I was talking to him about that today. He said his first few offers were just from small schools, and you kind of thought that's what it's going to be it. And then the word starts to get out, and all of a sudden, fairly late in the recruiting process, you have an awful lot of attention. And so, you're talking about a guy who's not used to that. And it's hard not to notice, outside of John Swafford, the commissioner of the ACC, and a handful of folks from the ACC network who were previewing things there, Tamori Terry was the first person to talk at this thing. He was the first person on the podium. That's kind of remarkable when you think about it, and I think that, he's done a really good job for himself. I think he made a decision. He said, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to be an ambassador both for my team and also for me, and let people know, who I am, what I'm about, and I think he did a really nice job with that.
Quickly, you're in Commissioner John Swafford's opening address. There's a lot of talk about the ACC network coming up very quickly. The Bowden Dynasty will air in its entirety on the network. That's very exciting news for Florida State fans. What was your main takeaway from what's coming up with the network?
I think it's going to be really cool, honestly, man. I mean, if you're certainly a Florida State fan, an ACC fan, a lot of neat programming, a lot of stuff to watch. A lot more avenues to see different things. I think, as we know, the first live event on the ACC network will be a Florida State soccer game. So I think that's something to look forward to, and just seeing some of that original programming. I mean, even if it's not necessarily Florida State centric, seeing some of the documentary footage you've seen. I've watched stuff on the SEC network about Arkansas or whatever, and I have no ties to Arkansas, but it's still interesting to go back and watch and to see, that type of variety with the production levels and the quality of work that that the ESPN and that type of stuff can do. Seeing that, with your school and the conference, I think it's going to be, a pretty fun thing and pretty cool to watch.
There you have it, Seminole fans. The ACC network, that launch is coming quickly. If your provider does not carry the network, make sure you're contacting them to get that done, put a little bit of pressure on them. And of course, fall camp around the corner. Tim and I will have plenty of coverage and plenty of stuff socially, as well as Florida State looks forward to that opener on August 31st against Boise State in Jacksonville. For Tim, I'm Lane. Go Noles.